The night air was sharp, damp with the smell of river water, and David's shoes slapped against the concrete as he pushed his tired body across the bridge, tugging his son's duct-taped backpack higher on his shoulder. He had just come from the night shift at the grocery warehouse, his palms raw from lifting pallets, his throat dry from hours of dust and cold air. The street lamps above buzzed faintly, flickering halos onto the wet pavement. That was when he noticed her, a girl in a deep red coat, her hair dark and glossy under the orange glow, standing on the outer ledge, toes hanging over emptiness. Her arms were folded across her chest, trembling slightly, her lips pressed together so tightly they quivered. David froze, the exhaustion in his bones burning away in an instant. "Hey," his voice cracked, sounding more desperate than commanding. She startled, head whipping toward him, her eyes wide with the glassy shimmer of tears. She didn't look like someone who belonged on this bridge at midnight. Her fitted jeans, polished ankle boots, and bold coat screamed wealth, independence, maybe even defiance. But now, her fingers dug into the railing like she was holding on to the last thread of herself. "Don't," David said again, stepping closer. He raised his hands slowly, as though approaching a skittish animal. "Please, it's freezing. Come back on this side." Her throat bobbed. "You don't know me." "No," he admitted, his voice soft, careful. "But I know what it's like to think no one would care if you disappeared." He thought of his one-bedroom apartment, where the fridge hummed with only half a jar of peanut butter and a carton of milk gone sour. He thought of his little boy asleep under a thrift store blanket patched with holes, shoes worn through at the toes. And he thought of the eviction notice curling on the door downstairs, a silent countdown to nowhere. The girl's mascara had streaked faintly under her eyes, but her beauty still had that cinematic sharpness, cheekbones catching light, lips trembling like they could crack open into either rage or sobs. She gave a bitter laugh, choking on it halfway through. "I wasn't supposed to end up here. None of it was supposed to." She shook her head, brushing hair out of her face with shaking fingers. David reached the railing, his heart pounding. He extended his hand toward her. "I don't care what brought you here. Just take my hand and step back. You're still breathing. That's all that matters right now." For a moment, the river hissed below like it was calling her. Then her shoulders collapsed inward, and with a broken gasp, she gripped his hand. He pulled, harder than he expected to need to, and she stumbled into him, her face pressing against his jacket. He smelled faint perfume under the scent of rain and cold metal. She clung to him like a child. Re-hook in the glow of the streetlight, David suddenly saw something on her wrist, a hospital band, bent and frayed at the edges. His stomach twisted. They stood there for what felt like hours, though the world around them was just passing cars and the quiet churn of the river. Finally, she pulled away, wiping her face with quick, embarrassed motions. "You should have just let me fall. You've got your own problems, I can see it in your eyes." "You're right," David said, forcing a tight smile. "I've got plenty, but if you jumped, I'd have another one to carry the rest of my life. So you kind of owe me coffee, at least." Her lips twitched, the faintest ghost of a smirk, though her eyes stayed haunted. She glanced toward the far end of the bridge, where a neon diner sign glowed red against the mist. "Fine, one coffee." The diner was almost empty, save for an old man nursing soup at the counter. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead, bouncing off the chrome fixtures. David slid into a booth opposite her. His stomach growled at the smell of frying bacon, but he ordered just a weak coffee, patting at his pocket to count the coins he had left. She ordered a latte, her voice steadier now, but her fingers fidgeted against the rim of the menu. Up close, David noticed the hospital band had faint writing on it. He tried not to stare, but she caught him. Her jaw tightened. "It's not what you think," she said sharply, then sighed. "Or maybe it is." She pressed her palms together, resting them against her lips as though in prayer. He wanted to ask. Instead, he sipped his bitter coffee and studied her posture. graceful even in despair, shoulders squared, chin high, like she had been trained never to look small, never to look defeated. But her eyes betrayed her, darting, restless, like they were always searching for an escape. "What's your name?" he asked finally. Her gaze flickered to him. "Clara." She hesitated before adding, "And I don't belong here. I should be anywhere else, except I can't go home, not anymore." The words landed heavy between them. David leaned back, chest tight. He thought of his son, sleeping in that drafty room, unaware that his father was sharing coffee with a stranger who had nearly ended her life. And yet he couldn't shake the strange, sharp pull in his gut, that whatever Clara was running from, it wasn't finished chasing her. Then the diner door opened with a burst of cold air, and a tall man in a sleek black coat walked in. His shoes gleamed polished, expensive. His eyes swept the diner until they locked on Clara. Her whole body went rigid, her hands trembling against her cup. David frowned, a knot of unease twisting inside him. Whoever that man was, he wasn't just another customer, and Clara looked like she'd seen a ghost. The man's presence filled the diner like smoke, sharp and suffocating. He moved with the confidence of someone who'd never had to check his wallet before ordering, someone who wore power like a tailored suit. His coat was unbuttoned to reveal a crisp shirt, dark tie, the kind of outfit David had only ever seen through department store windows. Clara's nails dug into the ceramic mug, and her lips parted like she might bolt, but her body refused to obey. "Clara," the man said smoothly, his voice low but edged with something cold, "you ran farther than I thought, but not far enough." David's shoulders tightened. "She said she doesn't want to go home." The man's eyes flicked toward David, sizing him up with a dismissive glance that burned worse than any insult. "And who are you?" Another stray clinging to her for scraps. Clara's throat worked. "Don't, not here." But the man smirked, sliding into the booth beside her without waiting for permission. His cologne was heavy, expensive, a scent that didn't belong in a place that smelled of bacon grease and weak coffee. "Your father's heart can't take another scandal. Come back, Clara, quietly, before anyone notices." Hook. David realized then, Clara wasn't just some lost girl. She was the daughter of someone powerful, someone wealthy enough that her attempt to disappear had become a scandal. David leaned forward, voice rough. "She was about to throw herself off a bridge. Maybe instead of worrying about your father's reputation, you should worry about her staying alive." Clara's eyes flashed with a mix of gratitude and fear, but the man only chuckled, tapping a manicured finger against the table. "You don't understand the world she comes from. People like her don't vanish into diners with men like you. She has obligations, responsibilities. You can't imagine the weight she carries." David wanted to snap back, but the words caught in his throat. He knew about weight, different, yes, but crushing all the same. The eviction notice, the empty fridge, the duct-taped backpack. Maybe Clara's prison wasn't poverty, but gilded chains cut just as deep. Clara suddenly pushed back from the booth, standing tall despite her trembling. The red coat flared slightly as she moved, her hair brushing against her cheek. "I'm not going back tonight," she said firmly, her voice trembling at the edges but holding. "Not with you, not ever like this." The man's jaw tightened, but before he could reply, she grabbed David's wrist. "Come on." They stepped out into the cold night, the neon sign buzzing behind them. Clara's breath clouded the air, and she wrapped her arms around herself. "I'm sorry," she whispered, glancing back as though expecting him to follow. "That was my brother. My family's complicated. David asked, pulling his jacket tighter against the wind. "That man looked like he wanted to drag you back in chains." Clara's lips twisted into something between a smile and a grimace. "Close enough. I was supposed to inherit everything. My father's company, his empire, the perfect daughter with the perfect degree, the perfect fiancé lined up, and when I said no, they decided I was broken, so they locked me away in a clinic until I learned to behave." She lifted her wrist, showing the hospital band again. But I escaped. I thought I could make it on my own. Turns out, maybe I can't. David swallowed hard, the wind biting his cheeks. So you thought the river was easier? Clara nodded once, tears stinging her eyes. Until you stopped me. They walked in silence until David's small apartment block loomed ahead, the paint peeling, a single flickering bulb casting shadows across the doorway. He hesitated, ashamed. It's not much, but if you need somewhere safe for the night, it's warm. Inside, the hallway smelled faintly of mildew. David unlocked the apartment, revealing a cramped space with a sagging couch and a child's shoes by the door, worn through at the toes. The fridge hummed faintly when he opened it, showing only the jar of peanut butter, stale bread, and a few coins resting in an empty egg carton. Clara's eyes softened as she looked around, her polished boots tapping softly against the linoleum floor. "You live here with your son?" she asked gently. "Yeah," David said, glancing toward the small bedroom where his boy slept under the patched blanket. "Just us." Clara's eyes glistened as she brushed hair behind her ear. "You're fighting battles just as heavy as mine, and you still stopped for me." She exhaled shakily, a kind of wonder in her expression. He wanted to brush it off, to say it was nothing, but before he could, a knock thundered on the door. Both of them froze. The voice outside was unmistakable. The brother, smooth, commanding, laced with authority. "Clara, open up. Don't make me call the police." David's pulse hammered. His son stirred in the next room, and Clara's face went pale, her graceful posture finally breaking as her body shook. "If he drags me out, I won't survive it," she whispered, clutching his arm desperately. The knock came again, louder this time, rattling the weak frame of the door. David looked at Clara, her wide eyes, her trembling lips, the silent plea etched into every line of her face, and he knew in that moment he had to decide whether to stand down or stand up. The handle began to turn.